Hello and welcome to this episode of We Used to Be Journos, the podcast where two media insiders break down broken news. I am Jan Fran, here with my co-host Antoinette Lattouf, and how's that for a tagline?
It is amazing. I'd love to say that we came up with it ourselves, or that I came up with it, but I didn't. It was Mars, our podcast listener. We love you, Mars. Thank you. And our listeners and our iterati are just the best, because not only are they helping us design our tagline, they're also changing their names to honour us. So I had a message from Greg, who said that he would like to now be called Gregette.
Gregette.
There's Mahmoud, who's Mahmoudette. And this is the best though. Violet, even though she's also an et like us, she wants to be Violetette.
Oh.
Because she just wants to show her double support.
Oh, okay.
For us.
Is anybody keen on being a et-et-et-et-et? Let us know. You could have infinite ets to your name if you wanted.
I also handed out a gold star on Blue Sky to someone called Nikki, because she sent us the most comprehensive breakdown of 9 News Melbourne's bulletin, with time codes and what stories were covered and how they were covered and what kind of duration were given and prominence given to certain stories. And I was like, Nikki, you are the teacher's pet. I love you.
Yes, because for those who don't know, we have a team of producers that they've taken it upon themselves to be producers. They just go and find these stories. But this one was particularly detailed. We are talking, like, there were several highlighter colours used in that document. Yeah. So really, really gold star there for Nikki, who's setting quite a high standard.
Yeah, we love the tips. Keep them coming.
The rest of the iterati, exactly. Sad news for us here at We Used to Be Journos. We've been pipped. No longer in the number one news podcast in Australia. Pipped by The Rest is Politics, which is a British podcast, I believe.
How dare they?
We're very mad about that.
Yeah.
And so a good place to say that if you want to put us back in that top spot, keep listening. And not only keep listening, but tell your friends. Tell everybody that you know to listen to We Used to Be Journos. And wherever you are listening to this or watching this, like and subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, because it really does help get the visibility of the podcast out, and we would be much obliged.
Yep, if it's a podcast platform, hit follow and share this podcast with all of your friends and even your enemies.
Yeah, all right. Let's get into today's show. What is in the show today, Antoinette?
Jan, I really wanted this to be a different show. You know, last week I was saying, come on, Jan, we have to show our range. We've got to look at different coverage, different media stories, different topics. And I really was trying to convince you that we needed to cover stuff that wasn't largely Gaza.
Right.
But then it felt like within, a 4 to 6 hour period, politicians and the media and influencers simultaneously rose out of their collective amnesia and changed their tune and started being like, okay, time of day, 9:45 a.m. Today, starving children to death in Gaza is no longer okay. And guys, we can't look away. And so we're going to explore what the hell happened, who flipped the switch, and will it change anything?
Yes. I mean, there was a rather significant, could you call it a turnaround, awakening? I don't really know what word to use for it. Both of those are inadequate. So, yes, that is what we are going to talk about. But also we're kind of just going to look at the way that was handled by a number of Australian media outlets and why we've got questions. You know, we always have question marks about these things.
As well as, yes, admitting, Jan, you were right, because you told me, well, it's the biggest story, we should just cover it, not shy away from it. We're able to reveal later in the show, while, yes, there seems to be a changing of tune, just a few weeks ago, we have some insider information about just how hard a particular television outlet tried to not cover starvation as a tool of war. And there was a bit of conflict and tension between some journalists internally who were trying to get it up. Also later in the show, it's a yes from me. So that's where we both spend some time giving a nod to journalists doing great work, because we are not completely heartless and we're not completely devoid of hope. Not entirely.
I mean, I am utterly devoid of hope, but that doesn't mean that I'm in a pit of despair. There's two different things there. I could probably spend an entire episode breaking that one down.
Okay.
Before it's a yes from me, and before we get into our big conversation about the media's, the global media's U-turn, or whatever you want to call it, we have it's a no from me. Examples from the week that are, just bad. We didn't like them. Bow. Survey says. What's that? Family Feud survey?
Yeah.
So we shall begin our segment. It is a no from me. Each of us brings something. What have you brought this week? That is a no from you.
Gosh, this one is so... I feel so many different things unpacking this because it is a no from me, but also a from me. Like, what? So it was the Andrew OIllie media lecture. It happened over the weekend. It's probably, for those who don't know, the most prestigious media lecture. There's a big formal dinner event in the calendar that lots of the who's who of media attend.
Yeah.
And it's set out, its aim is to quote, explore the role of the media and where it's heading.
Yeah. So just for background, this was set up in 1996 by, I believe it was ABC staff in honour of the journalist and broadcaster Andrew OIllie. And each year someone prominent speaks. It's not exclusively ABC people. There was, like Ray Martin, Lisa Wilkinson, Waleed Ali. I think Ita Buttrose even did it one year.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's, usually ABC people giving a lecture for the evening.
Yeah,
that's the background, because the Andrew OIllie lecture is very inside journalism. Like, if you're not a journalist, you're probably like, I don't know, I've never heard of this. So that's what it is.
It's generally seen as an important examination or reflection from a senior person in the media about the future of the press. And this year was ABC's Geraldine Doogue. So she's a very established, well-known journalist, particularly amongst, ABC audiences. She was inducted into the Australian Media Hall of Fame in 2018, but she'd been at 10 News first in the late 80s. She's currently co-host of the ABC Global Roaming podcast, which looks at major national and international stories every week.
Yeah.
So given that her platform is global news, that's her current remit, and she's talking about the future of journalism, I had high hopes, and honestly... Look, she's allowed to say what she wants. She was invited. It's her speech. And I kept trying to say remind myself that, it's okay. So she spent 35 minutes of her speech largely quoting other people, making kind of broad motherhood statements, no real direct or clear analysis of the times. And her general thesis was we need to be less individual and think more community and collectively. And I was like, And anytime I thought that she was going to address the elephant in the room, the current geopolitical issue, the ABC, trust, the future of journalism.
I mean, you are giving a speech to a group of people who are out there trying to have a good time at a dinner. Like, that's just one thing I'll say. Like, you don't want to leave everyone on a bummer note.
We don't want to, but you address the challenges and then you provide a way forward. Like, we have been to previous Andrew OIllie lectures, and whether or not we entirely agree with their takes, there was at least a recognition of what the hell was going on.
Of the times, yeah, sure. Of the year that we were in, per se.
And she would touch on some things and then leave gaping holes and omissions, like this part where she talks about, about a world leader crushing international order. So I was like, oh, okay.
Here we go.
We're going to get to some specificity. We're going to talk about what's actually happening.
His words, that Vladimir Putin et al. Aim to exploit all this to, quotes, crush the moral spine of Europe, to undo entirely the international order established in the aftermath of World War II. Then he went further, which is where I found it very interesting.
So again, in this part, she's quoting somebody else. But Jan, can you think of a leader whose actions may be crushing a moral spine of the moment? Like, especially if you were hosting a podcast of, I don't know, like global affairs, could you think of somebody else?
It did feel a bit conspicuous to talk about somebody that was crushing the moral spine of Europe and completely rearranging the world order. And then the first one is Vladimir Putin. Because I think there might be someone else who could it be that just pips Vladimir Putin to that post in the year of our Lord 2025.
As the co-host of a global affairs podcast.
Man, I feel bad for whoever is doing this lecture in 2025, honestly, because it would just be such a hard line to tread. I would decline personally. Not that I've ever been asked, but if someone said, hey, do you want to do the Andrew OIllie lecture this year?
I would have said yes. I would have loved it.
They should have got you to do the Andrew OIllie lecture. Because you're balancing so many things. Like you're trying to get the moment right, but like you've got the chairman of the ABC there, and then you've got all of your peers, and everybody's like, drinking and having dinner and you want them to feel good about the state of journalism. It's a real minefield this year.
Well, speaking of the ABC chairman there was again in the speech, Geraldine Doogue quotes somebody else who's referencing the ABC board and trust. And I was like, oh, okay. So your speech, your speech is getting there.
I remember the respected social researcher Nia Korn a few years back telling the ABC board that trust was possibly the ABC's vital power, its secret sauce. That of course, he said, the audience makes up their own minds in their own households about those of us on telly or on the radio or online and our take on the world. They have a view. But they know where they stand with you.
The elephant in the room is there, isn't it? It's you, metaphorically speaking.
And no acknowledgement of how the ABC's board, the trust in the ABC board has been obliterated, or the damning ruling from a federal court judge that found that none of the board were reliable witnesses and that the chair was hard to follow and theatrical at best. Like, what?
Yeah, it's weird talking about trust at the ABC, again, given where the ABC has been in the last 1 month, which is the Federal Court of Australia, hemorrhaging some degree of trust, I guess. I listened to the speech. I didn't hate it. I think, one of the points that I felt that she made was like, we just need a different way, an unprecedented way of thinking about journalism. So a way that we can't rely on the old ways. And she was clear to not put a particular way forward, and that's fine. Like, it's hard to think of what that way forward would be. But I think you're right in your assessment that it probably didn't meet the time, the year 2025. Like last year, Frank Kelly gave it and she talked about misinformation and Trump, and that felt very timely.
Yeah, and she talked about misinformation during the voice referendum.
And that felt timely. Yeah. And then I think Lee Sales maybe did it the year before. And she talked about activist journalism, which, yes, I have some questions about. But again, it met the time, it met the year, it met the issues. This one, I don't feel it did that hugely, but then I don't know how you would actually do that deftly at an Andrew OIllie lecture. If you do, however, want to hear a lecture that does meet the times, our friend of the show and friend of us, Nour Haydar, did a lecture last year called the A.N. Smith Memorial Lecture, with a reflection on Palestine and on the Australian media, and actually who gets to shape the story and how you can improve some of the practices in the newsroom. And she's just got an incredible personal story. I mean, big shout out to Nour. I don't even know if she's listening to this podcast, but you should go and check out that lecture, and we will put it in the show notes for anybody that is interested.
Okay, Jan, what is your bring? It's a no from me.
Okay, so my bring today, the It's a No From Me, is an interview that was actually, it streamed a week ago. So just as our show had streamed, I noticed this. But it's kind of had this spectacular fallout, I guess, over the last week. And it is YouTubers, the Nelk Boys, interviewing none other than internationally wanted war criminal and plausible genocide heir, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Is genocide heir a thing?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But
it sounds too fancy and nice.
Yeah, I think
for someone who perpetrates genocide.
Yeah. It might be a French word. But anyway, I can really only describe this interview as a colossal piece of Israeli propaganda, like jaw-dropping. I had to listen to it in sections and on double speed because I couldn't keep my heart rate down.
Well, when you first told me about this, I actually didn't know who the Nelk Boys were. And surprise, surprise, it's because I do not hang out in the Manosphere. But this particular podcast has over 2 million subscribers. And this video, the main interview with Netanyahu, had, last time I checked, 1.6 million views. They've previously interviewed Donald Trump. They're essentially Canadian-American pranksters. Their viewership is 3/4 men aged 16 to 25. And across all of their social media platforms, it's 21 million. So they have a huge amount of reach, but they gain notoriety and internet fame by being pranksters. Like they would do a prank with LAPD officers going, oh, I have Coke in the car. And then, it'd be Coca-Cola. So like this is who they are.
That is the vibe. And yeah, good. I did not even know all of that. So good background research there. But I did spend a few very long days on the internet. And this interview is being just absolutely ripped to shreds by everyone, and for very good reason, because you can tell that it's going to be questionable really from the beginning. Like I'm talking from the first few seconds. So let me just play a couple of those seconds for you now.
This is fucking nuts.
This is so crazy. We are so not qualified to do this.
No.
That's what's interesting about this. We just should not be doing this.
Oh, but we are, and we're going to.
We shouldn't be doing this. Gonna do it though.
Yeah.
And what a fucking cop out, like straight from the offset. Because that's just something that you say when, if things go haywire, then you don't want to assume any kind of responsibility.
It's the most dishonest disclaimer.
Yeah.
And I don't buy it for a second that they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. But this is their justification for why they did the interview in the first place.
You read stuff online, and I feel like on the internet now too, it's like you don't even know what's real anymore. Like you read shit and it's like you see a headline and it's like, is this true? Is this not true? So I see so much stuff about, what's going on in Israel and, Iran and Palestine. And to be honest, I just really don't know what is going on there. So it's going to be interesting to sit down with Prime Minister Netanyahu and kind of just ask him some questions about what we read online and
get educated.
Get educated. Y'all, we want to get educated about what every scholar worth their salt is calling a genocide. And the way that we're going to get educated is to speak to the man accused of perpetrating that genocide. That's how we're going to get educated. And also it's like, we don't know about Israel and Palestine. You know what? Do a Google. Just Google. Just Google very quickly. Just see what you come up with.
Yeah.
Read a couple of papers. I don't know. And so like the interview was exactly as you would expect the interview to go. I'm not even sure that they really had to be there. Like they just could have given him the podium or the microphone and just gone, you know what, just say what you would like to say for an hour and 15 minutes and we'll come back when you're done. Good. So like when I say it's propaganda, what I mean is essentially he just said whatever the fuck he wanted with almost zero pushback. I'm going to give you an example. They put to him, sometimes we read on X that Israel kills babies. What do you have to say about that? And here is what he had to say.
So we come in to take care of the Hamas terrorists. But the Hamas terrorists don't leave the civilian neighborhoods. And we say to the civilians, we call them up because we have their telephone numbers. We say, leave, please leave. We send them leaflets, millions of leaflets, please leave. We do everything that is possible that no army has done.
Oh, we send them leaflets and say, please leave. And you know what? They don't leave. And so, I don't know, we've had to kill 100,000 people approximately.
Or they do leave and then we kill them while they're leaving.
Yeah. I mean, but so this is the place where you would, if you were a journalist actually doing any kind of journalism, you would push back on this stuff and ask about the children that have been shot in the head, for example, or the safe zones that you tell people to go to and then you bomb those safe zones. Or like, I don't know, the massacre of the medics that we have evidence for.
Or because like you're so kind with your leaflets, like why are you shooting children in the genitals? Like, I mean, did your leaflet sort that out? Like it's...
You could ask about specific people, like what about Hind Rajab in the car, where an investigation found that her car was riddled with over 300 bullets. Yeah. Like how does that fit in to what old mate's saying?
There were so many lies that have been categorically debunked time and time again that Netanyahu was allowed to sprout.
Oh my God.
He talked about beheaded babies. He denied that Israel was starving Palestinians. He said at one point that he wanted them to get rid of Hamas so that, give them an election so they can vote for someone else, the Palestinian people.
Yeah,
I was like, where are they going to vote exactly? Because usually you go and vote in a school or a hall or a mosque and you have bombed all of them.
Yeah.
Like it was such nonsense.
So, no, they didn't bring any of that up. But do you want to know what they did bring up with the Prime Minister of Israel?
I'm going to be honest. I stopped listening halfway through because it made me feel sick. So I may not know.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't finish
Well,
it.
here is a very hard-hitting question from the Nelk Boys to a man accused of committing crimes against humanity.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you, Burger King. We did the double,
Whopper?
The double.
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long time.
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No, you're wrong.
The BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
Didn't these podcast guys get the memo that it was this same week that everyone agreed that starvation was bad?
I mean, they recorded this on July the 8th, which does not minimize it in any way.
No, but by then, like the collective decision, like the world's collective humanity had not concluded yet.
Dude, I'm
starvation
sorry.
was bad.
What the fuck are we doing? Like, are we asking a internationally wanted war criminal what his McDonald's order is? Like, is that what this has come to? And so you can imagine that the backlash to all of this was... I mean, it almost, from what I saw, and I tried to keep a kind of cast a wide net, but it was almost universally bad. Like, what the fuck are you boys doing?
I'm just going to say like a couple of quick things. They aren't journalists. And so it's not necessarily their job to do the hard journalism, particularly at a time when a lot of the media establishment is also going very soft on Benjamin Netanyahu. Was it wrong to platform him? Yes, morally completely wrong. Was it wrong to then later come out on social media and say, oh, actually the White House organized the interview and gave us a briefing paper and we mainly just kept to that? Yeah, but they aren't journalists. And I think it's more about audiences knowing that when Trump did it, when Dutton did it, when Albanese did it, when they do this, they do it to circumvent the media, to avoid getting any hard questions. Not that Netanyahu's getting any particularly hard question from Western press at the moment, but they're doing it deliberately.
I mean, I know that they're doing it deliberately, but this idea that they're not journalists and so you can't expect to hold them to a standard that you would hold journalists to. Unfortunately, the reality is this is where a lot of people are getting their news and information from. So there has to be some standard that these people are held to. And like, I take your point. They're doing it deliberately. They know exactly what they're doing. And even old mate, when, he was approached, I think a few days later by someone who's like, hi, what the fuck were you doing with Benjamin Netanyahu? Let's just have a listen to what he said.
I wish we could go back in time and fucking grill him 1,000 times harder. And we just went in there fucking unequipped to fucking interview him. We have a lot of Muslim friends. We've been to fucking Dagestan. We all know what's in our hearts. We don't hate anybody. We're not taking sides in this shit. We love everybody. I'm sleeping great because I know how I actually feel on the inside. So, and I know a lot of you guys are fucking, and this is not an apology. This is just
more content.
We fucking walked in there and we weren't fucking ready for it, man.
And it's not a fucking apology. Like, shut the fuck up.
We weren't ready for it. I mean, this has only been going on for 75 years and we've had 660 days of live stream genocide. And we weren't sure. We didn't know, guys. But also we're making more content. Like and subscribe.
Well, can I tell you what I kind of like gleaned from this whole thing is like all of it. The interview itself, the backlash to the interview, the people commenting on the interview, us commenting on the commenters of the interview, his, apology, not apology there, them replying to the comments or reading the comments on the video, like that entire thing.
That's an ecosystem.
That is the content piece. The interview is not the content piece. Like, it's not just the interview with Benjamin Netanyahu. It's actually a content piece that is multiple and staggered. And when you see it that way, you realize, right, this is not a glitch of the system. This is not a thing that went bad. This is the system.
Yeah.
This is where we're going. And it's terrifying to me that this could potentially be like, if you extrapolate the politicians doing interviews with podcasters and newsfluencers and internet people, if you extrapolate it to the nth degree, it's like two bozos interviewing a wanted war criminal about McDonald's. Like, is this where that is headed? And if so, how might we please get off this train?
Well, we can only give audiences some pointers to be skeptical, to realize the intent of this, to know that these podcasters are getting money from outrage views or genuine views, to know that this was set up by the White House as a tool, because young Americans and young people around the globe, their sentiment in particular is really hardening against the atrocities committed by Israel. So this is a propaganda tool. So when you see it through that lens, I mean, all we can do is be skeptical and help audiences see that this is not journalism and it's done to benefit politicians being uncontested.
Yeah, it's gone so far beyond not journalism. Like it's entered its own world of I don't know what the fuck this is. But I feel like everyone that starts any kind of media company, a newspaper, mainstream, not mainstream, internet, should also come with like their own little fact checker that has like a pot that they just bang. You know what I mean? That has a whistle that they blow every time. I think that's the only way to do it, because we can't stop this from happening, but we can just hold up like some kind of broken mirror and just be a thorn in their side. And honestly, the most heartening aspect of this, and I never thought that I would say this, God bless the comment section.
Yeah.
Oh, God bless that comment section. That was the one thing that made me feel sane. So that is my no from me this week and possibly forever. Okay. Where we at? In the last week, we've also seen a backflip, an awakening, I don't know, U-turn. You can use whatever word you want to describe it. I'm fresh out. But suddenly all of the front pages, and we're talking front pages from around the world as well as here in Australia, were showing images of starving children in Gaza. It was leading the bulletins. Influencers were posting about it. We had some strong language.
Were crying. Influencers were crying as well on social media. It was really hard for them.
I didn't see that. We had Albanese using some strong language. Of course, I'm doing air quotes here. So something was going on.
Yeah, it was like synchronized sadness. There was this like collective shock, as though what we're witnessing was something new. But there was also at the same time, when it came to images of starving children, quite a bit of dishonesty and caveating and even both sidesing that started to creep through. That's before the Israeli ambassador press release and the Israeli denials came out about 48 hours later. But what I want to focus on first, what was out of the ordinary, was just like all of a sudden it was wall-to-wall coverage in places that had never spent much time on particular imagery or particular shock and sadness. And I scrolled, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see the scroll of my Instagram, and I screen recorded it because I was like, it's like they all decided at the one time. They all got on a global news conference call and was like, okay, guys, now we care about starvation. And it was just scroll after scroll, outlet after outlet, covering this. Even Mamma Mia felt compelled to drag itself out from its self-imposed exile of it's complicated. We are what all women are talking about, except not humanizing Palestinians. And this was the image that they shared on social media. And the caption read, "For the first time since the war began, dozens are now also dying of hunger," Palestinians officials say. So yes, there's the passive voice dying, not being killed. But quick little fact check, Mamma Mia.
For the first time since the war began.
Jesus Christ.
War is an interesting word. Let's just park that there for the minute.
So there's passive language use of the war, right? There's this kind of like the usual alarm bells. Between October 7th and October 9th in 2023, Israeli political and military leaders announced their goals, indicating like genocidal intent. There will be no food or water left. These are human animals. Yeah. Gaza has to be flattened, utterly destroyed. Then in December 2023, Human Rights Watch rang the alarm bell of starvation being used as a tool of war. And then the World Health Organization reported deaths in its report in June 2024 from acute malnutrition. And then again in December 2024, hundreds more died, according to the World Health Organization. This is the number one media company at a time when 70% of those who were
Number one media company for women.
For women in Australia. At a time when 70% of those who were killed are women and children. So it's cute to avoid the story for almost 2 years. And then when you finally come out, just lie. It's like, yay, women, yay, sisterhood. Like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like lie is a strong word, but strong. It's like very.
Well, what word would you use for it?
I would just use like omission. I would use watered down. I would use caveating.
For the first time. Well, that is a bold-faced lie.
It's not true. It's not true. Yeah, it's just factually incorrect. It's not for the first time. all the human rights organizations have been warning about this for months.
We actually have reports of death counts as well.
The Age's front page on Friday for me stood out. It said Gaza's children are starving, and it had an image of, the Gazan mother with her emaciated child. And I saw that and I just felt it was galling to me to see that, because this is a paper that had spent the last few weeks just essentially denigrating protesters, calling them intransigent, telling them to stop doing what they're doing.
Calling them anti-Semitic and not...
Well, essentially like equating them with, the cause behind anti-Semitic incidents. Again, we've talked about those incidents, one of which was graffiti at a weapons factory.
But also, what were they protesting?
Well, exactly. When I saw this image on the front page of The Age, my first thought was like, those protesters that you've been denigrating for weeks, they're protesting this, right?
Yeah.
Like, that this is what they're protesting. That's why they've been taking to the streets for years, for almost 2 years, every week, protesting this. And now you've got it on your front page in some kind of like sanctimonious warning for people. Gaza's children are starving. Well, they're not starving for starters. They're being starved.
Yeah.
So it was just like, what is happening?
The Herald's view was particularly telling. So it was, starvation in Gaza is despicable and must be a turning point in this hideous war. The starvation that's been happening since late 2023.
Right.
And then just 1 month prior, in June 25th, ruling shows a need for a truly impartial ABC. Antoinette Lattouf's victory over the ABC has exposed terrible misjudgment by senior management and opened the door to staff expressing political opinions.
Oh no, open the door to staff expressing political opinions.
About...
I love this.
Starvation!
The Herald's view a month ago, Antoinette Lattouf probably shouldn't have expressed her political opinion about starvation in Gaza. The Herald's view now, starvation in Gaza is despicable.
And it must be a turning point, because we decided now, a few weeks later, that it was a turning point.
And not only is it despicable, only we can say that, actually. Because in the pages of our esteemed newspaper,
are
2 years later...
Are they activists now? It's also confusing.
Yes, does this make the Herald an activist newspaper? Quick, someone call Ita Buttrose so she can give us her assessment of whether the Herald is doing activism journalism.
Yeah, we need more vibe. It's the vibe, it's the Constitution. It's Ita Buttrose's take.
We'll never know. I also had another gripe with this kind of common language that I saw in a bunch of outlets, both internationally and in Australia. They're like, we can't look away.
But you have been, bro.
Yeah.
You're looking away real good.
Yeah. Oh, not only can't you look away, you can and you do and you have. So interesting.
Yeah, there was this... I shouldn't laugh.
No, you shouldn't. I can't.
This really breathless, sad face introduction from 10 News First Plus. It's the show that replaced The Project in recent weeks.
But we begin tonight with a story that, if we're honest, we know you might want to turn away from. But we're asking you to watch because we all need to know about it. There are many different views about the Israel-Gaza war, but tonight we want to focus on the kids. Children who have no choice, who have not picked a side, but who are dying because there is not enough food to keep them alive. Humanitarian groups say it's man-made mass starvation, and it's getting worse.
The caveating. Oh, the caveat. And we know that you don't want to, but my God, you can't look away. And also, we're not here to take a side, but also it's about the children.
And we don't know how they're being starved, but there's just no food. And it's really terrible, but we're not picking sides.
We're not picking sides.
But please don't look away, even though we've been helping you look away for 2 years.
But we want to focus on the kids. Yeah, indeed. And why have we not focused on the kids these last 2 years? This is what spins me out. Like, what is it about this moment in particular that has everyone turning around when the kids have been... I got an image in my head now, a thought that Anyway, I'm going to try and just be cool and continue.
Okay, because we know, I can imagine what that image in your head is.
Yeah.
And also, starvation is bad, but what about blowing their arms and legs off? Because Israel has created the largest cohort of pediatric amputees in history.
With the whole don't look away thing, I have been thinking about you a fair bit. And I don't think we've really discussed this in any great detail. But for the media to kind of turn around now and say, don't look away, when you were unlawfully sacked from the ABC for posting...
For looking.
...about starvation in 2023, and now you have to see the media just hollering from the rooftops about how you shouldn't look away from starvation. Meanwhile, hardly any of them came to your defense when you did that 2 years ago. Like, what is the vibe?
It is the most hollow and depressing I told you so that should never had to have happened. And it's not over for me. I still have to go back to court in September for the penalty hearing to fight the ABC about how much they have to pay for all of their unlawful behaviour. So it's not over for me. Like, defending my right to amplify that children are being used, and starvation was being used as a weapon of war in late 2023. Like, it was a fact then, and it remains an appalling fact now. But my peers waited for it to be so widespread, almost to the point of no return to cover it. Imagine if we all, in December 2023, if all front pages of newspapers, if all journalists with social media profiles, if all influencers, if we all spread the horror and demonstrated the atrocity and how wrong it is, and put pressure on governments, maybe it could have been stopped.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I'm infuriated or heartbroken or despairing or all of the above, but...
Do you know that's the worst aspect of it? Is I think that, like, if everyone had been vocal in the same way now, a year ago, a year and a half ago, could we be in a completely different place? And not only were they not vocal, they fucking fired you. And that just chilled the entire media industry. And all of the firings and all of the sackings and all of the silencing would have chilled so many people from so many industries. And now we're here. And that is just a fucking heartbreak, honestly.
Human Rights Watch had to come out, their headquarters in New York, and be like, hey, journalists, it's okay to share facts from us. Like, human rights organisations had to then, because of the ABC sacking, then try and urge journalists to not be scared from reporting human rights facts. So it did have a chilling effect. It did contribute to this. And I will never fucking forgive the ABC for that. I don't care what penalties they're forced to pay.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. And I know that when you won the case, this was about a month ago, when you came outside the court, and the statement that you said, again, was just a reiteration of the post that you made in 2023.
Yeah, so I deliberately made my statement very short and deliberately made it about starvation as a tool of war in 2023 and how it's still being used now and how it was a war crime. I wanted to give the media nothing else to quote me on as a way to force them to report it, as a way to force them to put it in, because I knew the story was going to be covered by everybody. Like, that is the length I had to go to be like, hey, guys, it's still happening. And there was a mixed bag. I was like, I wonder who's going to cut out the line that it is now June 2025 and starvation is still being used as a tool of war. We see these children emaciated, skeletal, scavenging through scraps for food. And I went through and I had a look at who... So people would run the speech and then cut out that part.
No.
That it was still happening.
Who?
Okay, so The Guardian had a 3-minute social video and they removed the whole first part of where I talked about starvation. They only included it. I was punished for my political opinion. 9 News did include it in their package. So ABC 7:30 removed the June 2025 when I tried to bring it to the now, that this isn't some kind of far away issue. It's still happening now. And I crafted this deliberately because I wanted to bring it to the now and I wanted to bring it to the facts of today.
So 7:30 had part of your speech,
and
but
then
not the part about
starvation happening now, in it being a war crime that was taken out. And they have like a feature length, that's, you could argue, in a 1 minute 30 news package, you can only have so much, but we know that they have much more
7:30
time.
Stories are much longer. Yeah.
And I, on social media, it was a mixed bag. And I know for a fact one major television outlet, a journalist who's come and told me because they were part of the argument, fighting with a senior producer who was trying to take that part out, but because I say it is a war crime to use starvation as a tool of war, fighting to have that and the fact that it was still happening in June 2025, so much so that they couldn't agree, and then they had to go to the senior, editor or whatever, EP's office and fight it out. And guess what? It was taken out.
No!
These are the outlets that are telling us we can't look away. A month later, there are reporters fighting to have my factual words outside of federal court kept into a story that was taken out.
I guess the question is like, what changes now? You know?
Well, I feel like people are showing this outrage, and I hope, I know I'm going to sound like it's just kind of, you know, despair and despondency, but it feels like it's too late for so many. Like when malnutrition is so widespread and so advanced, most people will die painful deaths. That's if they're not going to be bombed. Or they'll never fully recover from the health complications. So, I mean, is it just an arse covering exercise?
Well, I mean, if you look at what the Prime Minister said, which is not much, it doesn't give you a huge amount of hope that something is going to change materially on the ground. You know, he did sign a statement with a bunch of other countries using quote unquote strong language. I'm doing air quotes.
It was just a thoughts and prayers statement.
Yeah, but also I think the UK, France, a couple of other countries said that they were going to take action. They hadn't, but they were going to, and Australia didn't sign up to that pledge. So already we're getting the sense that Anthony Albanese is probably not going to do very much. He was on Insiders, and again, after that statement, wasn't particularly buoyed by. Him going on Insiders was just the video version of that statement, really. So here's him on Insiders.
I'm a supporter of Israel and Israel's right to defend itself, but that boy isn't challenging Israel's right to existence, and nor are the many who continue to suffer from the unavailability of food and water. The fact that people have lost their lives queuing to get food and water, distributed not by the UN, but distributed by the joint Israeli-American operation, is a tragedy.
Okay.
Unavailability?
I mean, can we just go through that and just really go through how watered down that is? Because forget the fact that he opens with, I'm a supporter of Israel.
And its right to defend itself as the occupying force and the fourth largest military in the world that has been killing with impunity.
And has been very credibly labelled, their actions at the very least, a genocide. But fine, you can open with that. And this is after Spears had asked him a number of times about his reaction as to what's happening in Gaza. Talking about like the unavailability of food. What the fuck does unavailability mean?
It's just sold out on the supermarket shelves. Like, the trucks haven't delivered it. It's just sold out. They're coming tomorrow.
I went to Aldi the other day.
There's unavailability of eggs.
No capers.
Oh, damn.
The capers were unavailable. Oh, like, that's the type of language that this man is using. Unavailability of food. And the people that have lost their lives queuing for food. Lost their lives. Like we talked about it on this show last week, UNRWA calling it a deliberate hunt of people. Sadistic. The language that human rights organisations are using is nowhere near this. We're 2 years in, and it's not just one human rights organisation, it's all of them. Right? So to say like food is unavailable, people are losing their lives, and this operation is a tragedy. Like a natural disaster is a tragedy, mate.
Yeah.
This is man-made. Where is the accountability?
What Spears did press him on, he pressed him again and again as to whether, like France, Australia would recognise Palestine as a state in September. He kept pressing him until Albanese said, no, we are not. Well, we're not ready. We'll do it when we're ready.
Yeah.
He also pressed him again and again, essentially to get, I don't know really the point of this, but to get Albanese to agree or to admit that Israel was breaching international law, like a fact that we know, but I guess he wanted the Prime Minister, like we know because of many other sources, reputable sources who've come to that conclusion, but he wanted the Prime Minister.
It's a bit of a thing that journalists do where they try and get someone saying something on the record so that if that person goes back on their word or uses contradictory language, they can say, well, you've said this on the record. How do you square it with what you've said now? So that's a kind of a technique of journalism, I suppose.
And so after being pressed, Albanese wanted to make it really clear on the sort of relationship we have with Israel.
What I have said to the Israeli President, Isaac Herzog, is that what sometimes friends have to say to their other friends when they are losing support. Israel is I think, when you look at internationally, the statements that have been made by including this week more than 24 nations combining to call out the lack of aid being allowed into Gaza, is that they need to recognise.
Sorry, just the
reason I'm playing that is because, like, what are you saying? But also, why are you friends?
Yeah.
Why are you friends with someone so problematic? Like, we all have problematic friends, right? Some of my friends, I'm like, hey, that goes, you keep throwing that, it goes in the recycling bin. You didn't put it in the recycling bin.
That's problematic.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I know we can't find parking, but you should not park in the disability car, like the disabled car spot. Problematic. You know what? If you do it again, I probably won't want to come with you in the car because that's the wrong thing to do.
And that is what you say to your friends, when they're losing support from people.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, none of my friends are running a country that's been credibly accused of committing genocide. So who knows how you would behave in that scenario. If your friend was overseeing genocide,
I know.
What would you say to them?
Yeah, you'd be like, friend, 2 weeks ago, like we say to a friend, that is what you would say to a problematic friend.
I guess that is really telling, that he starts with like, what I've said to the Israeli president, my friend, is, you see here,
if you look overseas in 2 weeks,
yeah, it's like, so you've said nothing.
Yeah.
You haven't really said the thing that
Sounds
you should
like you're
probably
scared
say.
of your problematic friend. Sounds like you're a little bit scared of your problematic friend.
I think that's, I don't know. That might be conjecture or it might be true. But either way, it doesn't really sound like you've said much to your friend, who probably at this point maybe shouldn't be your friend, or at the very least you should rethink that friendship.
And I know we had a go at the podcast having Benjamin Netanyahu on there, and I made the case that journalists need to be doing the hard journo jobs, and do we really need to expect some pranksters in Canada and the US to do it? Insiders is the premier political TV show in Australia. It was a sit-down interview with Anthony Albanese. What I wanted to hear was a whole bunch of questions that weren't asked in terms of like, what happens next? Thank you for your feeling really sad about it. Pick this picture, this young boy who, he is not Hamas. He lovely, like very clearly pointed out, like, why is Australia still exporting weaponry to Israel if you're so heartbroken about images of these kids? Why haven't you sanctioned Israel like you've sanctioned Russia? How many more war crimes need to be committed before you expel the Israeli ambassador? Why aren't you calling your friend, who you just dubbed your friend, and saying, hey, let our journalists into Gaza to report? Why is your government complicit? None of these questions were asked.
I think.
So can we really be mad at the podcasters?
Yes, absolutely. We can be mad at the podcasters.
So we can be mad at
Fuck
everybody.
them.
Okay, be mad at everybody.
I mean, that was just some neck level shit. Like,
yeah, okay.
Sorry. But yes, we can be mad at them. I mean, in terms of Spears, like, he does his show every week. I feel like I'm always in their defense, which I think is fair to do. Like, he does this show every week and he interviews politicians every week. And whilst I haven't watched every single episode this year, I'm sure there have been some questions put to politicians about whether or not they are exporting weaponry or weapons parts to Israel.
Is it a journalist's job to stop asking? You know what? We asked the shadow member for blah, blah, blah.
We asked the Assistant Secretary for Innovation whether or not...
in June 2024. So we did that.
You know who I think we can rely on a little bit more now to really fact check these world leaders is the international humanitarian organisations. God bless them. God bless the work they are doing. They are truth tellers. I'm going to give one example from Save the Children UK.
So they're helping out the podcasters and the political journalists.
They're
coming in.
The humanitarian.
Yeah, they're like, hey guys, you seem to be having some trouble doing your jobs.
Yeah. They're like the Editorial. Yeah. They're coming in like, hang on a second, let me just fact check this statement. And this one comes courtesy of Save the Children UK, which was fact checking Keir Starmer's statement, which was
the UK Prime Minister.
Sorry, yeah, the UK Prime Minister, which was in sort of a very similar tenor to the Australian statement. He says the suffering and starvation unfolding in Gaza is unspeakable. They've crossed out unfolding and they've written inflicted by Israel.
Yeah.
He says, while the situation has been grave for some time, they've crossed out situation and written assault.
Yep.
And he says, we're witnessing a humanitarian catastrophe. They've added the word deliberate.
Oh.
Right? So, I mean, maybe we need to look in other places, in these little nooks and crannies for the people doing the fact-checking of this stuff. Not to say that it doesn't happen in certain points on television and in the mainstream media. It does, and I think we have to be fair to them. But there's also other ways of kind of understanding this stuff too. So shout out to Save the Children UK.
Just very quickly before we get to It's a Yes from me, I mean, should we be happy that the media is feeling more emboldened and journalists who don't have as much power as their editors and bosses, who have been trying to do this work, and we know many of them because they tell us how hard they push for good stories, that now they're allowed to say Starvation, they're allowed to interview a genocide scholar, they're allowed to do stuff. Like, should we feel emboldened that the tide is turning, or warn against, we started to see snippets of Israeli denials, then just being given like headline news simultaneously. No, we didn't do it. It's essentially no, we're not starving them, not us. It's essentially the tone of and that's been like, oh, well, that's a top story news, everybody.
Well, I think that we should, I would much prefer that we do talk about it in this way than not. I hope that people feel more emboldened to speak out. And I'm not just talking about the media, but anyone, anywhere, in any profession. I hope that this is a line for people who were previously chilled by the silence and the silencing to now feel like actually they can say something publicly. But I think we kind of have to understand exactly where this sits in a media ecosystem, because as you say, as soon as the Israeli ambassador in Australia makes a statement, well, that statement doesn't just become news, it becomes headline.
Yeah, and even despite the falsities in it, it becomes uncontested. As a headline.
As a headline. It's just, and so that's the deference and the prominence, again, that's given to the Israeli viewpoint. So I think that we should, not put too much in this as some kind of revolutionary moment.
I am going to make like Geraldine Doogue, and I don't want to leave this on a bad note, on a sad note. I want to leave you with some hope. And so we're going to do It's a Yes from me.
Okay.
And that is a nod to some good journalism, a nod to things that we think show healthy signs of the media system. So I recommend Lone Actor. It's a podcast. It's part of the Secrets We Keep series. It's a 6-part investigative series by Joey Watson. And Joey digs into like the dark digital underworld that helped shape terrorist Brenton Tarrant. He's that 28-year-old who carried out the Christchurch terror attack. It not only unpacks how he was radicalised online, but it asks the central question that too many, particularly at the time, politicians and media were quick to suggest that he was acting alone. Oh, this is a lone wolf attack, and everybody, it's okay, let's go back to what we're doing. Oh, terrible, but this is just one guy. And really pokes at that hypothesis that it was a lone wolf attack. And I think what makes this series stand out isn't that it's not that it's just forensic. It's that Joey brings some personal stuff to it. Like, he's the grandson of Holocaust survivors. He has been tracking and researching neo-Nazism and far-right extremism. And his own dad is from one of the towns in Christchurch, the suburbs in Christchurch, where one of the mosque attacks happened. Oh. So he's just not a random guy chasing a story. It's one that's, impacted his family for generations. And also what I loved seeing, this is for a podcast, the backing it had for investigative journalism. Like, he went to parts of Europe where Tarrant had travelled to meet with other like crazy right-wing people.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. And it's terrible, but like
shocking, but good that he got to do it.
Got to do it, particularly at a time, because obviously this, investigative journalism takes time, it takes money, it takes guts. But I think I rate it mainly because it asks what too many avoided. Like, there was no Australian inquiry into Tarrant's networks. There was no real reckoning about how this guy from Grafton ended up committing this mass act of terror. And I remember at the time, Scott Morrison was the leader, and he was like, very quick to say, look, well, he's been living in New Zealand for the last couple of years and it was just a lone attack and nothing to see here about white supremacy and the rise of the far right. And I think it's good that we haven't stopped probing at he hasn't stopped probing at that because, as we know, the far right and neo-Nazism and anti-Semitism is frighteningly real.
Okay, so that was the name of the podcast, Lone Actor.
Yes.
By Joey Watson.
Yes.
And available on the Listener platform.
Yeah, or podcast platforms.
Or wherever you get your podcast. And I'm sure it's not a coincidence that you also work for Listener and do a podcast called The Briefing, which is why you're recommending this.
No, well, I think anybody who knows me knows that I'll shit can anyone, anywhere. And Listener and Southern Cross Hysteria is not immune. But this is a very excellent series.
Okay, there you go. Lone Actor.
So, Jane, what have you got?
I have nothing.
Jan.
I know. I'm really not very good at this particular segment, am I? Even though
you have a week, and I keep saying, "Come on, Jan, come up with something. Go have a look."
I know.
We need to give. Like, there are our peers. Some of them are doing good work.
100. I agree, 100%. I just feel like this last week, I was just mired in all of the reporting on the starvation in Gaza. And I have to get better. I have to get better at the praise. I'm not a very good. I'm like my dad.
You're like, no news is good news.
No news is good news, man. Like, if I don't talk about you, you're probably doing well. You're doing great. I've operated on that basis like my entire life, honestly. I actually have to get better at it.
I know. Sometimes I suggest something to you for the show or for our business, and you're like, I don't hate it. I was like,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. To get she likes it. Like, damn. It usually is I don't hate it, or I don't have a problem, or it's not bad.
Okay.
Which is why, like, if your love language is words of affirmation,
which mine is,
girl, you are not going to get along with me.
I
do not give them freely. I do not, and I have to get better at it. I know I do. I have to get better at it, and that's not to say that there's not good work out there being done, because absolutely there is. So next week, I'm going to have 2 yeses from me.
Yeah, and can you have some words of affirmation for me?
No. But I can have 2 yeses for the segment that I pitched. I can do that. That is next week. And that brings us to the end of our show for this week.
Oh, thanks so much for sticking around, guys. We want to keep doing the work we're doing, and subscriber support means so much. We need financial support to keep being independent. So if you head to etmedia.com, we are a small but mighty team. You can subscribe with a click, subscribe with your dollars, make us grow, and frankly, allow us to say the things that need to be said.
Yes, and to get back in that number 1 spot and kick the rest is politics out of the top news spot. So keep listening, keep talking about it, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.